The knock was barely audible over the screaming wind. When Elias opened the door, the lantern light fell on a woman made of bone and desperation. She stood knee-deep in the snow, 4 children shivering in rags behind her. Her eyes held the flat look of someone who had already accepted death. "Please," she whispered, pushing the smallest girl toward the warmth of his stove. "Take my children. I can't feed them." She turned to walk back into the blizzard. Elias caught her arm, his grip firm. "No, ma'am," he said, pulling them inside. "I'm taking you, too." Before we saddle up and ride further into this story, I'd like to welcome you to Untold Frontier Tales. If you believe in keeping the spirit of the Old West alive, the grit, the honor, and the history, do me a favor and tip your hat to this video by clicking that like button. It helps these stories reach more folks just like us. And if you haven't yet, click subscribe to join our growing family. Now, let's see what happens next. The wind was a living thing, a predator clawing at the chinking of Elias Holloway's cabin. It had screamed for 3 days, a high-pitched keen that Elias mistook for the ghosts of his past, of his Alara, buried 2 years now under this frozen dirt. He sat in his one chair, rifle across his lap, staring at the stove embers. The cabin was a tomb, and he was its willing occupant. Then came the sound, faint against the wind's lie. Tap, 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 not a branch, human. He froze, rifle coming up, heart hammering against his ribs. No one came this high up the mountain in a blizzard unless they were running from something or bringing death. The knock came again, weaker this time, a desperate scratching. He lit the lantern with a trembling hand and unbarred the heavy door. The wind tore it from his grip, slamming it wide open. The lantern light fell on a nightmare. She was barely a woman, more a skeleton draped in wet rags, holding a bundle that moved. Her lips were cracked and blue. Behind her, 3 other figures huddled in the swirling snow, faces hollowed by hunger, eyes enormous and dark like trapped animals. The woman swayed, strength gone. She shoved the bundle at him, an infant. "Please," she whispered. She pushed a small girl forward. "Take my children." She pointed to the twin boys, bodies locked in a permanent shiver. "I can't feed them." Her voice was the rasp of dry leaves. Having delivered her plea, she turned, a visible act of will, intending to walk back into the white oblivion. She had brought them to the light, and she would go die in the dark. Elias reacted without thought. His hand shot out, grabbing her thin arm. The bones beneath the soaked wool felt like a bird's. "No, ma'am," he said, voice rough. "Get in, all of you." He grabbed the twins, hauling them inside. The oldest girl, May, scrambled in last, dragging the smallest, Rose, behind her. She stared at Elias with a fierce, protective glare. He kicked the door shut against the storm, sealing them in. The children didn't cry. They stood dripping on the floor, staring at the fire with terrible, silent hunger. The woman, Anna, slid down the wall, clutching the infant. Elias looked at them, this sudden, starving family, and then at the empty chair where Alara used to sit. The cabin, silent for 2 years, was suddenly full of breath. "I'm taking you, too," he said, more to himself than to her. He didn't know how, but he would. He moved without a word, body stiff from the cold. He sliced the last of the salt pork from the slab, the knife cutting through thick fat, and threw the strips into the cast iron skillet. The smell, one he hadn't bothered with in months, filled the cabin, sizzling and sharp. The children's eyes followed every movement. He scraped the last of the bean pot onto 5 tin plates. "Eat," he said, his voice a rasp. The twins fell on the food like starved animals, shoveling hot beans into their mouths with their hands. May, the oldest, ate slowly, eyes darting between Elias and her mother as if expecting the food to be snatched away. Anna pushed her plate toward May. "You eat," Elias commanded, voice firmer than intended. She obeyed, but tears fell silent and hot into her plate. It wasn't just gratitude, it was the agonizing shame of a mother forced to accept a stranger's last rations. Elias's gut twisted. He remembered Alara, the way she'd looked at him in the end, that same mix of love and defeat. He couldn't watch. He turned his back, pretending to check the stove, giving Anna the dignity of her private grief. The storm raged for 2 days. When it broke, the cabin, once his tomb, had changed. Anna and May became ghosts of industry. Anna found his mending kit, stitching rips into children's rags with shaking hands. May swept the floor, organizing the clutter of his solitary life with a quiet efficiency that unnerved him. The silence he had cultivated was gone, replaced by the rustle of living things, but it was the toddler, Rose, who cracked his reserve. She watched him with the fearless curiosity of the very young. On the 3rd day, she reached out a small, dirty hand and gripped the wool of his coat. Elias froze. He stared at the hand, feeling a visceral, painful lurch in his chest. He didn't know how to accept this living weight. He didn't move for a full minute. That night, after the children fell asleep in his bed, Elias took stock. He went to the pantry shelves, and the temporary peace shattered. He ran his hand through the bottom of the flour barrel. Dust. The cornmeal sack was flat. The beans and pork were gone. All that remained were 3 traps, a rifle, and 5 bullets. A cold panic settled in his gut. His stores, meant to last him until March, were gone in 4 days. He had saved them from the storm only to trap them in a slower death. He was responsible for them now, and he had absolutely no way to feed them. The ride to Redemption Creek was a biting reminder of his failure, leaving Anna and the children behind with nothing but a rifle and a lie about checking traps. Old Bess was thin, and the 10-mile trek felt like an eternity. When he finally pushed open the door to Gable's Mercantile, the bell's cheerful jingle felt like a mockery, and the air inside, thick with the smell of coffee and tobacco, was a cruel taunt to his empty stomach. Mr. Gable refused to look up until Elias asked for flour and pork on credit. With Mrs. Pratchett, the town gossip, watching nearby, Gable's gaze turned cold. "I'm not a charity, Holloway," he announced loud enough for an audience. "Heard you took in the Brennan widow. That's 6 extra mouths. That choice is your burden, not mine." Humiliated, Elias turned to leave, but Mrs. Pratchett followed him onto the boardwalk to deliver the final blow. "It's a sin, what you're doing," she hissed, eyes sharp as a hawk. "Decent folk don't cohabitate. You are harboring that woman and leading those children into damnation." Elias froze, paralyzed not by the cold but by the realization of the trap he'd sprung. He hadn't just saved Anna, he had ruined her reputation, making her a pariah. He had dragged her from the blizzard only to throw her to the wolves of the town. He rode home with the failure heavy as a stone in his gut, carrying only a small bag of cornmeal bought with his last coins. When he entered the cabin, the children's hopeful faces fell, and Anna's expression remained unreadable. She knew. As he placed the meager rations on the table, she walked to her small bundle of rags and retrieved a heavy, ornate gold pocket watch. "It was my husband's," she said, her voice flat as she pressed it into his hand. "I will not be a burden." Elias tried to push it back, insisting it was all she had left of her past life, but her eyes flashed with a sudden, desperate fire. "We are partners now, Mr. Elias," she whispered, the ultimatum hanging in the air between them. "Or we are nothing." 2 days later, the morning quiet was shattered by carriage wheels cutting through the slush, signaling an arrival far worse than the storm. It was Mr. Harding, the banker, a man whose heart was as dry as the dust in his ledgers. Stepping from his black lacquer carriage, He smirked at the terrified children peering from the window and told Elias he seemed to have started an orphanage. Then he delivered the crushing news. Elias was 3 months behind on payments, owing $50, an impossible fortune in a season of death. Harding snapped his book shut like a gunshot, giving Elias 10 days before the bank seized the deed and the sheriff cleared them out. He left a silence heavier than the snow, leaving Elias with his head in his hands, knowing his rifle and lost pride weren't enough to save them. Anna approached, placing the warm, heavy gold watch on the table. When Elias rasped that he couldn't take her last possession, she looked at him with clear, fierce eyes, declaring that her true wealth was this family. She looked out at old Bess, Elias's mare shivering in the paddock, and decided that the watch and the horse together would be enough. For a rancher, losing a horse was a surrender of identity, but Elias didn't hesitate. He saddled Bess one last time and rode 20 miles north to a rough mining camp, avoiding the judgment of Redemption Creek. He sold the watch to an indifferent pawnbroker and the horse to a liveryman, walking away from the mare in a moment of profound loss. The 20-mile walk back became a blur of white agony, the wind cutting through his coat to freeze the sweat on his back. He became a beast of burden in his own tragedy, carrying the $50 in his boot and a heavy sack of flour on his shoulder, every step a deliberate choice of them over himself. When he finally crashed through the cabin door hours after dark, stumbling to his knees with eyebrows frosted white, Anna was there instantly. She asked no questions about the money or the horse. Instead, she stripped the frozen coat from his shoulders and took his blue, claw-like hands between her warm palms, rubbing life back into them while her tears fell hot against his skin, a silent baptism of their shared survival. A week later, with the debt paid and the threat receded, Elias sat Anna down by the fire while the children slept in a warm pile of limbs. He admitted the town was right about one thing: their situation wasn't proper. Anna stiffened, refusing to be a burden he was legally tied to, but Elias took her chapped hand, his voice rough with emotion. He wasn't asking for the sake of propriety or protection, but because for 2 years his cabin had been a tomb. "I was empty, and now I'm not," he told her, asking her to be his wife because she had brought both his home and him back to life. Days later, they stood before the circuit judge in a cold, drafty town hall, Elias in his one clean shirt and the children scrubbed silent beside them. The peace was broken when Harding, the banker, stood up to object, calling Elias a deadbeat and Anna a vagrant, claiming the marriage was a mockery to shirk responsibilities. The room fell silent as Mrs. Pratchett nodded in agreement, but Elias turned to face the crowd. His voice was quiet yet carried through the room as he recounted how it started with a simple knock and a blizzard. He looked directly at Mrs. Pratchett, reminding the town that Anna's children were starving because every decent door had been locked against them. "What's the greater sin?" he asked. "A man sheltering a family, or a town letting one starve?" Turning to Harding, he declared his monetary debt paid, but stated that his debt to Anna, the woman who saved him from a living death, was one he would spend his life honoring. He asked the judge to proceed, and for the first time, the judge smiled, pronouncing them man and wife. Ashamed, the townsfolk came forward with small gifts of atonement, seed potatoes and canned peaches. By spring, the snow had melted, and the land was reborn. Elias and a visibly pregnant Anna worked the garden while the children planted seeds, their laughter becoming the first crop of the season. Watching his new family, Elias finally understood the truth of that winter. He hadn't just taken them in, they had pulled him back to the world of the living. They say hard times reveal the true measure of a person, just like we saw today. We don't see stories like this much anymore, but here at Untold Frontier Tales, we're dedicated to preserving them. I want to hear from you in the comments below. If you enjoyed our time together, Please make sure you're subscribed and ring that notification bell so you never miss a tale. Until next time, keep your powder dry.